Hello there, Supatveva, dear friends of the Dhamma. Welcome back to the Dhamma School, the Dhamma of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha. When we were kids, we were taught that the Prince Siddhuhat left the royal palace secretly at night. But it is not what happened according to the Buddha's own narrative. There's a sutta called Arya Pariyesana. Pariyesana means research. Arya, the prefix A denotes the abandonment. Riya means existence or the journey of existence. Then Arya Pariyesana means research to abandon the journey of existence. In other words, research on the absolute liberation. In the sutta, the Buddha explained how he officially abandoned the royal palace. Soko aham bhikkave aparena samayena dharuva samano susukala keso. Bhadrena yobbanena samannagato patamena vayasa. Akamakanam matapitunang assumukanang rudattanang kesamassun oharetva kasayani vattani achadetva agarasma anagariyan pabbajin. So, practitioners, once upon a time, when I was still a young man with black hair, endowed with the blessings of youth, in the first stage of my life, while my mother and father, Mata Pitu, while my mother and father were lamenting, screaming, and turning the royal palace upside down, I shaved off my hair and beard, put on the ochre robe, and went forth from the household life into ordained life. So it is the Buddha's own narrative. And then, Kin Kusala Gavesi, in search of what mental purity is, ascetic Siddhuhat went to Alarakalamo. Alarakalamo's teaching was Akinchanchayatanaya. That means dimension of nothingness. Ascetic Siddhuhat learned the doctrine of Alarakalamo. Dimension of nothingness is the third immaterial dhyana. In order to get there, ascetic Siddhuhat realized mundane, material and immaterial dhyanas in the sequence. The first dhyana, the second dhyana, the third dhyana, the fourth dhyana, and then dimension of infinite space, dimension of infinite corrupted cognition, and finally, he realized through direct knowledge what Alarakalama declared, the dimension of nothingness. But ascetic Siddhuhat became dissatisfied with Alarakalama's teaching because there was no path to unbinding, there was no path to Nibbana, there was no path to the absolute liberation. Therefore, he left Alarakalamo and went to Udako Ramaputtu. Udako Ramaputta's teaching was Neva Sanya Na Sanyayatanaya. That means dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. It is the last and fourth immaterial dhyana. So, ascetic Siddhuhat learned the doctrine of Uddako Ramaputto and realized it through direct knowledge. But he became dissatisfied with Uddako Ramaputta's teaching too, because there was no path to Nibbana, there was no path to the absolute liberation. Therefore, he left Uddako Ramaputto too. Now, it is important to point out that the ascetic Siddhuhat attained all 8 mundane, material and immaterial, transcendental mental states. In other words, ascetic Siddhuhat attained the highest stage of Ceto Vimutti. Ceto Vimutti is a provisional purification of emotional sphere. Seriously, it is not a purification. It looks like a purification. But it is just a provisional emptiness of emotional sphere. Ceto Vimutti can't influence or purify our distorted cognitive process. However, ascetic Siddhuhat recognized that Ceto Vimutti was not the absolute liberation. Ascetic Siddhuhat, or so-called Bodhisattva, Sattva means being. Bodhi means awakening. Then Bodhisattva means being who is looking for awakening. So my next question is, what did the Bodhisattva discover sitting under that ficus tree? What did he practice for attaining awakening? There's a sutta called Dvada Vitakka. Vitakka means intentions or thinking. Dvada means 2 kinds. Then Dvada Vitakka means 2 kinds of intentions. In this sutta, the Buddha explained what happened sitting under that ficus tree. Pubbeva me bhikkave sambodha anabhisambuddhassa bodhisattaseva sato etadahosi yannunahan dvidakattva vitakke viharayanti. Once upon a time, when he was an unawakened bodhisattva, just prior to attaining enlightenment, when he was researching into his innermost thoughts, the idea dawned on him to divide his thoughts depending on their nature. Then he recognized that there are some thoughts of sensuality, some thoughts of aversion, and some thoughts of delusional nature. He categorized them into one group. Practically, they are known as raga, dosa, moha. In a similar manner, he recognized that there are other thoughts about abandonment of sensuality, abandonment of aversion, and abandonment of delusion. He categorized them into another group. Practically, they are known as araga, adosa, and amoha. Now, it is obvious that there are two kinds of intentions being generated in our mind. The first type is comprised of raga, dosa, moha, three sun causes. The second type is comprised of araga, adosa, amoha, asan, abandonment of sun causes. So, two realities of intentions, duality. The Bodhisattva noticed that raga, dosa, moha lead to self-affliction. They lead to affliction in others. They lead to affliction in both. They corrupt cognition and they lead to attachment. Raga leads to pleasant attachment called craving, in Magadhi known as tanha. Dosa leads to unpleasant attachment called aversion, in Magadhi known as patiga. Moha leads to indecisive attachment between pleasure and displeasure called ignorance, in Magadhi known as avidya. Already we have explained that in Magadhi, the term P represents all three kinds of attachments. In a similar manner, the Bodhisattva noticed that araga, adosa, and amoha don't lead to self-affliction. They don't lead to affliction in others too. They don't lead to affliction in either. They generate pure cognition and they lead to unbinding. These thoughts, araga, adosa, amoha, can be sustained at night. These thoughts can be sustained even during the day. These thoughts can be sustained even during the day and night. They never lead to any fear. Moreover, the Bodhisattva noticed that the application of araga interrupts the sequence of actions leading to craving. The application of adosa interrupts the sequence of actions leading to aversion. The application of amoha interrupts the sequence of actions leading to ignorance. In Magadhi, the sequence of actions leading to attachment is called kayu. Kayu. So the Bodhisattva experienced that with the application of araga, adosa, amoha, the sequence of actions leading to attachment called kayu gets interrupted or gets collapsed. So my next question is, what is this kayu? What is this sequence of actions leading to attachment? Already we have explained three actions in Magadhi called tijakaya, karajakaya, performance of physical body, corporeality. Manomaya Kaya, performance of cognitive sphere, cognitive reality. And Chittaja Kaya, the performance of emotional sphere, emotional reality. Chitta, the emotional sphere, is the common platform created by mind to communicate between our senses and the cognitive sphere, mind. If we talk about senses, our eye is just a sensitive lens to catch colors in the presence of light. The sight is a faculty of the mind. The sight is an ability of the mind. The mind is the weaver. In a similar way, our ear is just an auditory instrument. The mind is the listener. Our nose is just an olfactory instrument. The mind is the smeller. The tongue is just a gustatory instrument. The mind is the taster. And our body is just a tactile instrument. The mind is the feeler. So, the sequence of actions leading to attachment in Magadhi called Kayo is composed of 6 rounds of actions. For example, let's take the arising of pleasant attachment called craving, triggered by a visual object. The first round of action is called Chakku Kaya. Kaya means action, Chakku means the eye. Then the eye in action to accumulate. In other words, we can call it internal visual agency in action. So, what is the difference between the eye, sense organ, and the eye, internal visual agency? In Magadhi, there are about 9 names to call our eye in different names depending on its performance. So generally we call Chakku. Chakku means the eye. So we have the eyes. Even when we are at sleep, we have the eyes. Even a dead body has the eyes. And even a blind person has the eyes. But Chakkukaya, the eye in action to accumulate. In Magadhi it is called Chakkun. So Chakkukaya or Chakkun means the eye in action to accumulate. Therefore, Chakkun is not Chakku. Chakku is not Chakkun. They are 2 different performances. And Chakku Viññānan, corrupted visual cognition. Chakku Sampassa, visual contact for accumulation. Chakku Vedana, visual sensation. Chakku Tanna, visual craving or craving triggered by sight. Chakku Ayatana, internal visual agency for accumulation. Chakku Indriya, the eye in action based on pure cognition. And Chakku Viññāna Dhatu, properties of corrupted visual cognition. So in a similar manner, all 6 sense organs can be called in different names according to their performances. All right. So what is the second round of action? It is called Rupa Kaya. Kaya means action, Rupa means visual form. So, visual form in action. In other words, we can call it external agency of visual form in action. When an appropriate visual form comes into contact with the eye, our mind designs its own version of the image in emotional sphere based on our past corrupted experiences. That image is called rupe cha, or it can be called rupakaya. And in Magadhi there's a term called paticca. The term paticca is made up of two words, pati plus icca. Icca means innate mental desire. Pati means to integrate. Then paticca means integration with innate mental desire. So, when an appropriate visual form comes into contact with the eye, paticca occurs between chakkukaya and rupakaya, giving rise to an energy called corrupted visual cognition. In Magadhi called chakkuviññāna. That's why the Buddha proclaimed that chakkuncha paticca rupecha uppajjati chakkuviññānam. In Magadhi, cha means chitta, emotional sphere. So, the third round of action, corrupted visual cognition in action. Now, chakkukaya, rupakaya and chakkuviññānakaya. In other words, internal visual agency in action, external agency of visual form in action, and corrupted visual cognition in action. The meeting of these three qualities is called sun contact. That means contact for accumulation. In Magadhi called sampassakaya. It is the fourth round of action. And then visual sensation generated by sun contact is called vedanakaya. It is the fifth round of action. And then finally, dependent on pleasant sensation, pleasant attachment arises. In Magadhi called tanha kaya, craving in action. So, chakkukaya, rupakaya, chakkuviññānakaya, chakkusampassakaya, chakkuvedanakaya, chakkutanhakaya. The Buddha proclaimed that chakkuncha paticca rupecha uppajjati chakkuviññānam tinnan sangati passo sampassaja vedana vedanapacca tanha. 6 rounds of actions. Now, 6 rounds of internal agencies should be comprehended. 6 rounds of external agencies should be comprehended. 6 rounds of corrupted cognition should be comprehended. 6 rounds of contact for accumulation should be comprehended. 6 rounds of sensation should be comprehended. And 6 rounds of craving should be comprehended. 6 rounds of actions for each attachment and each sense agency. Then 36 rounds of actions for craving should be comprehended. In a similar manner, 36 rounds of actions for aversion should be comprehended, and 36 rounds of actions for ignorance should be comprehended. Now we have a complete idea about the sequence of physio-psychological actions leading to attachment in Magadhi called Kayu. Kayu. So the Bodhisattva experienced that the sequence of actions leading to attachment called Kayu crumbles simultaneously with the application of Araga, Adosa, Amoha. Seriously, the application of Araga, Adosa, Amoha to counter or to interrupt Kayu is called Kaye Kaya Anupassi Viharati. It is the first step of Satipatthana. So, with the application of Araga, Adosa, Amoha, not only did Kayu crumble, but also the Bodhisattva entered the first Arya Dhyana. And then he entered the second Arya Dhyana, and then third Arya Dhyana, and then he entered the last and fourth Arya Dhyana. And further concentration led him to attainment of Pubbe Nivasanussati Jnana. That means the knowledge of recollecting past lives. Then he remembered his manifold thousands of past lives in their modes and details. And further concentration led him to attainment of Chutupapata Jnanaya. That means the knowledge of the passing away and reappearance of beings. There he realized how the beings get blissful life or awful life depending on their moral and immoral conduct throughout the journey of existence. There he realized eightfold wheel of karma based on wrong view, and eightfold wheel of Dhamma based on Samma Ditti, Sanma view. Ma means to liberate, San means 3 sun causes. Then Sanma view or Samma Ditti means vision on liberating from Raga, Dosa and Moha. And further concentration led him to realize the theory of cause and effect, in Magadhi called Paticca Samuppada. So, what is this theory of cause and effect? All right, let's continue our discussion in our next lesson. Supatveva, everyone.